Hello there, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Tonight, we're drifting into the shadowed corners of human imagination, where ancient cultures whispered of creatures that walked between dream and darkness. These are not the monsters you know from films or stories. These are the forgotten things, the beings that lived in the fears of people who came before us, dwelling in myths told around dying fires, and passed down through generations who truly believed. Let this be your moment to settle. The world outside can wait. We're exploring waters that pull travelers beneath still surfaces, forests where trees remember what humanity has forgotten, and thresholds where the living meet something else entirely. Some of these creatures you may never have heard of, obscure guardians and devourers from traditions that span the world. Others might feel distantly familiar, like half-remembered dreams. If this journey into the anthropology of fear helps you unwind, a like helps others find their way here too. But for now, let yourself breathe deeply, and let's begin our slow walk through the mythology of terror, transformed into wonder. In the folklore of medieval Germany, there existed a creature called the Alp, a being that came to sleepers in the deepest hours of night. The Alp was said to sit upon the chest of those who slumbered, pressing down with invisible weight until breathing became labored and dreams turned to nightmares. People woke gasping, unable to move, convinced something malevolent had visited them. The Alp could take many forms in the telling, sometimes appearing as a small dark bird, other times as a white butterfly, occasionally as a pale man with a distinctive hat. What remained constant was the experience it left behind, that crushing sensation of weight and paralysis that we now understand as sleep paralysis, a phenomenon where the mind wakes before the body, leaving consciousness trapped in a shell that will not respond. Medieval communities believed the Alp could slip through the smallest gaps, through keyholes and cracks beneath doors, hunting for victims in their most vulnerable state. To protect against such visitation, people hung mirrors or placed their shoes beneath the bed, pointing away from them. Small rituals meant to ward off what they could not explain. The Alp represents humanity's ancient struggle to understand why sleep, which should bring peace, sometimes brings terror instead. The word nightmare itself carries within it the memory of a creature. In Germanic and Scandinavian folklore, the mare or mara was a spirit that rode the night, visiting sleepers to bring visions of horror and dread. The mare was often described as a woman, though one with supernatural abilities, capable of shape-shifting and moving through walls as though they were mist. She would sit on the chest of her victims, just as the Alp did, or ride them like horses through their dreams, leaving them exhausted and terrified upon waking. Different regions told different versions of her story. In some traditions, she was the spirit of a woman who died tragically. In others, she was a living person with the ability to send her spirit wandering while her body slept. Still, other tales claimed the mare was born from curses or from women who practiced forbidden arts. What united these stories was the experience they described, that universal human terror of waking unable to move, feeling a presence in the room, seeing shadows take shape in the corner where nothing should be. The mare gave form to formless dread, transforming a neurological event into narrative, making the incomprehensible feel knowable, even if no less frightening for the knowing. Across the ocean in Japan, a different tradition spoke of creatures that disturbed sleep and consumed the dreams of mortals. The Baku, unlike most beings we will encounter tonight, was considered benevolent, a creature to be welcomed rather than feared. The Baku resembled a tapir with its distinctive snout and sturdy body, though in artistic depictions it often appeared as a chimera, combining features of elephant, tiger, and bear into something that existed only in the realm of imagination. Japanese folklore held that the Baku fed on nightmares, devouring the terrible dreams that plagued sleepers and leaving peace in their wake. Children would call upon the Baku when bad dreams came, whispering its name 3 times in the darkness, asking it to come and consume what terrified them. Temples sometimes featured Baku imagery to ward off evil dreams and protect those who slept within. Yet even this benevolent creature carried a warning in some tellings. If the Baku grew too hungry, if it consumed all of one's nightmares and still wanted more, it might begin to eat the good dreams as well, then hopes, then ambitions, leaving behind a hollow person emptied of all aspiration. Even in kindness, the supernatural carried danger. The succubus and incubus of medieval European tradition represent some of the most misunderstood creatures in mythological history, transformed by modern interpretations into something far removed from their original context. In medieval understanding, these were demonic entities that attacked sleepers, draining life force and leaving victims weakened, exhausted, and plagued by disturbing dreams. The succubus was said to take female form, the incubus male, but their true nature was believed to be formless, demons that assumed shapes designed to torment. Medieval theologians debated their existence, trying to reconcile folk belief with religious doctrine, ultimately positioning them as fallen angels or servants of the devil sent to corrupt and weaken humanity. What these stories truly represented was an attempt to explain several phenomena that medieval people observed but could not understand. Sleep paralysis, with its accompanying hallucinations, seemed proof of demonic visitation. Nocturnal emissions were interpreted as physical evidence of supernatural assault. The exhaustion that comes from poor sleep, from anxiety and stress, was attributed to these nighttime predators. By giving name and form to these experiences, medieval communities created a shared language for discussing what was frightening and inexplicable. The creatures were never truly about desire, as modern portrayals suggest, but about fear of the night, fear of vulnerability, fear of forces beyond human control. In Scandinavian tradition, particularly in Iceland, stories were told of the Myrkrida, a creature whose name translates roughly to Night Rider or Darkness Rider. This being was said to visit farms in the deepest darkness, seeking entrance through any gap it could find, slipping beneath doors like smoke, flowing through keyholes like water. Once inside, the Myrkrida would settle upon sleepers, bringing dreams of drowning, dreams of suffocation, dreams of being buried alive. Those who experienced its visitation woke with marks upon their skin, bruises in patterns that seemed almost like fingerprints, though no living person had touched them. The folklore prescribed specific protections against the Myrkrida. Farmers would carve protective symbols into door frames, particularly the Helm of Awe, an ancient Norse symbol believed to instill fear in enemies and spirits alike. They would leave offerings of milk and bread outside, hoping to appease whatever wandered in the night. These practices persisted well into the modern era in remote regions, a testament to how deeply the fear of nocturnal visitation had embedded itself into cultural consciousness. The Myrkrida, like so many creatures of nightmare, gave shape to the anxiety of rural isolation, the vulnerability of sleep in places where help might be hours away. The Boo Hag of Gula folklore, from the coastal regions of the southeastern United States, presents another variation on the theme of creatures that attack in sleep. The Boo Hag was said to shed her skin at night, hiding it away carefully before going out to ride her victims. She would enter homes through cracks and crevices, find a sleeping person, and sit upon their chest, stealing their breath and energy throughout the night. The victim would wake exhausted, drained, sometimes with marks on their skin or feeling as though they had not slept at all despite hours in bed. The Boo Hag, it was said, needed to steal the life force of others to sustain herself, for without her skin she was not truly alive, existing in a state between living and dead. To protect against her, people would leave a broom near the door, for the Boo Hag, like many supernatural beings across different cultures, was supposedly compelled to count things, and would become so absorbed in counting the bristles that dawn would arrive before she finished, forcing her to flee. This detail reveals something fascinating about folklore, how certain motifs appear across cultures that had no contact with one another. The idea of creatures compelled to count appears in Chinese, Slavic, Germanic, and now African American tradition, suggesting perhaps some deep psychological truth about the human relationship with order and chaos. From the Philippines comes the tale of the Batabat, a vengeful spirit that takes the form of a grotesquely large woman who lives in trees, particularly in the posts of houses built from wood taken from her dwelling. When someone sleeps near the post that was once her tree, the Batabat emerges to sit upon their chest, her immense weight crushing down, causing the sleeper to struggle for breath, to fight for movement, to wake in terror if they wake at all. Some stories say that those who cannot escape the Batabat's weight die in their sleep, their hearts giving out under the strain. The Batabat represents revenge, the anger of nature against those who cut and build without respect, who take without asking, who transform living things into dead materials for human use. To protect against the Batabat, Filipino tradition suggests a simple solution. If you wake to find yourself unable to move, if you feel the crushing weight and see the shadowed form, you must wiggle your toes. This small act of resistance, this insistence on movement no matter how slight, breaks the Batabat's hold and causes her to flee. The specificity of this detail, the emphasis on the toes particularly, appears in other traditions as well, suggesting perhaps that this advice arose from genuine experiences of sleep paralysis, where the extremities often return to voluntary control first. Ancient Mesopotamian culture, one of the earliest civilizations, already possessed detailed mythologies about creatures that disrupted sleep and brought nightmares. The Lilitu, which would eventually evolve into the figure of Lilith in Jewish mysticism, was originally a type of demon that attacked sleepers, particularly targeting men, but also threatening pregnant women and newborns. Mesopotamian texts describe the Lilitu as dwelling in desolate places, in ruins and abandoned buildings, emerging at night to wander human settlements. She was associated with wind and storm, with dust and darkness, appearing as a beautiful woman who brought disease and misfortune. Clay tablets prescribe incantations and rituals to ward off the Lilitu, to protect households from her nocturnal visits. What makes the Lilitu particularly interesting is how she transformed across millennia, moving from culture to culture, taking on new attributes with each retelling. By the medieval period, Lilith had become a complex figure in Jewish mysticism, associated with Adam before Eve, transformed into the first rebel against patriarchal order. Yet, beneath these later interpretations, the original Mesopotamian demon persists. A night creature that brought terror to those who slept, that threatened the most vulnerable, that represented the dangers lurking in darkness. The Pishacha of Hindu mythology represent another category of night, terrors, spirits born from darkness and violence that haunt cremation grounds and places of death. They were said to possess corpses, to animate the recently deceased, to cause illness and madness in those they encountered. But the Pishacha also attacked sleep, entering dreams to torment and confuse, causing nightmares so intense that victims would wake screaming, convinced they had experienced something real. In Sanskrit texts, the Pishacha are described as having dark skin, red eyes, and protruding veins, though their true form was said to be formless, taking shape only when they wished to be seen. They fed on human flesh in some tellings, but more commonly they fed on energy, on life force, on the vitality that animated living beings. The Pishacha particularly targeted those who were spiritually weak, who had committed sins or crimes, who had strayed from righteous paths. In this way, they served as both supernatural threat and moral warning, reminders that wrongdoing invited darkness, that the soul unguarded was vulnerable to invasion. Rituals to protect against Pishacha involved purification through prayer, through fire, through the chanting of sacred mantras that would drive away unclean spirits. In Arabic and Islamic folklore, the jinn have long been recognized as beings that exist parallel to humanity, created by God from smokeless fire while humans were made from clay. While jinn can be good or evil, neutral or aligned with divine will, certain types were particularly associated with tormenting sleepers. The Kareen, a type of jinn assigned to each person as a companion, sometimes turned malevolent, whispering temptations during waking hours and bringing nightmares during sleep. Other jinn would attack those who slept in impure states, who had not performed proper ablutions, who had allowed themselves to become spiritually vulnerable. These nocturnal visitations could result in sleep paralysis, in vivid nightmares, in waking with marks or injuries that had no visible cause. Islamic tradition provided protections against such attacks, reciting the throne verse before sleep, ensuring one's sleeping space was clean and free from impurity. Maintaining regular prayer, these practices were believed to create a barrier against malevolent jinn. What makes the jinn fascinating in the context of sleep creatures is that they were not considered inherently evil, but rather beings with their own agency, their own choices, capable of good or harm just as humans were. This adds a layer of moral complexity absent from purely demonic traditions. The nightmare of European folklore, distinct from but related to the mare we encountered earlier, was sometimes described as an actual creature rather than a spirit, a small dark animal that crept into bedrooms to torment sleepers. In some regions of England and Scotland, people spoke of seeing the nightmare, describing it as something like a cat or small dog, but wrong somehow, moving in ways that natural animals did not, with eyes that reflected light too brightly, with sounds that seemed almost but not quite like normal animal sounds. Farmers would wake to find horses in their stables exhausted and sweat-soaked, their manes tangled in elaborate knots, and would claim the nightmare had been riding them. Cattle would be found agitated, unable to give milk, their behavior suggesting some nocturnal disturbance. To capture a nightmare, folk tradition suggested placing a stone with a natural hole through it, called a hagstone, near where the creature was seen. If you could glimpse the nightmare through the hole in the stone, it would lose its power and flee. Alternatively, turning your clothes inside out before sleep would confuse the creature, making it unable to find you. These small rituals served psychological purposes beyond any supernatural efficacy, giving people a sense of control, a way to act against what seemed uncontrollable, transforming helpless fear into purposeful defense. In Korean folklore, the Guisin are spirits of the deceased who remain in the world due to unfinished business or improper burial, and among them are those who specifically target sleepers. The Mul Guisin, or water ghost, attacks those who sleep near water, dragging them into nightmares of drowning, sometimes even causing death by water aspiration in their sleep. The Gaksigu, spirits of those who died of starvation, enter the dreams of sleepers to feed vicariously through their nightmares, creating visions of endless hunger, of food that turns to ash in the mouth, of banquets that vanish when reached for. These Guisin appear in white clothing, the traditional burial garments with long black hair covering their faces, only their pale hands visible. They move without walking, floating just above the ground, their presence accompanied by a drop in temperature and a feeling of overwhelming dread. Korean tradition prescribed elaborate rituals to prevent the dead from becoming Guisin, ensuring proper burial, conducting appropriate ceremonies, tending to graves with regular offerings. But for those already transformed, protection during sleep required spiritual cleansing, the placement of specific talismans, sometimes the intervention of a mudang, a Korean shaman who could communicate with the spirit world and convince the Guisin to move on. The Acheri of northern Indian folklore is particularly tragic, a spirit said to be the ghost of a little girl who died of disease. This small spirit descends from mountain peaks at night, bringing illness to children who sleep, particularly targeting the young and vulnerable. The Acheri appears as a pale child, dressed in dark or ragged clothing, sometimes barely visible in the moonlight, a shadow among shadows. Her presence is accompanied by the sound of bells or singing, a child's voice carrying through the night, beautiful and terrible at once. Those she visits wake with fever, with unexplained illnesses that drain strength and vitality. In some tellings, the Acheri is not malicious but lonely, seeking companionship, unaware that her touch brings sickness. The traditional protection against the Acheri was a red thread tied around the wrist or neck of sleeping children. The color, red, believed to ward off evil spirits and disease. This practice persisted well into the modern era in some regions, grandmothers tying red strings on their grandchildren, a ritual transformed from supernatural protection to cultural tradition. The original meaning perhaps forgotten, but the gesture of love and protection remaining. The Pontianak Anak of Malay and Indonesian tradition deserves mention here, though we will encounter her more fully later. In the context of sleep and nightmares, the Pontianak was said to appear in the dreams of pregnant women, bringing visions of childbirth gone wrong, of infant mortality, of maternal death. These nightmares served a purpose beyond simple terror. In communities where maternal and infant mortality rates were tragically high, where childbirth carried genuine danger, these dreams might have reflected realistic fears. The Pontianak gave form to anxiety, allowed women to name what they feared, to discuss it within the framework of folklore rather than as personal failing or weakness. By understanding these nightmares as external visitation rather than internal fear, women could seek protection through ritual and community, could gather with other women who understood, who had faced the same nocturnal visitor, who survived. In Celtic folklore, particularly in Wales and Ireland, the Dullahan or Fardarocha was sometimes said to appear in the nightmares of those marked for death. This headless figure, riding a black horse and carrying his own severed head, would appear in dreams weeks or even months before someone died, a supernatural warning or perhaps a claiming. Those who dreamed of the Dullahan would wake with the certainty that their time was limited, that death had taken notice. In some traditions, the Dullahan could not be warded off, his appearance in dreams being fate rather than threat. In others, certain protections existed. Gold was said to repel him, the sight of the precious metal causing him to retreat. Prayers offered at crossroads, places where the boundaries between worlds grew thin, might convince him to pass by. What makes the Dullahan interesting as a sleep creature is this element of prophecy, the idea that dreams could carry genuine information about the future, that the supernatural realm could communicate through the vulnerable state of sleep, sending messages that the waking mind might refuse to accept. The Mora of Slavic folklore shares characteristics with the Germanic mare, but possesses unique attributes specific to Eastern European tradition. The Mora was believed to be the soul of a living person, usually a woman, who left her body during sleep to wander and torment others. She would enter through keyholes, as so many night creatures do, and sit upon the chest of her victim, drinking their breath, stealing their vitality, leaving them exhausted. What distinguished the Mora from similar creatures was the belief that she might not even know what she was doing. The person whose soul became the Mora might wake with no memory of her nocturnal activities, living an ordinary life while unknowingly terrorizing her neighbors at night. To identify a Mora, communities would look for specific signs. A woman whose eyebrows grew together might be suspect, or one born with a caul, or one who exhibited certain behaviors or characteristics that marked her as different. If a Mora was identified, the traditional remedy was either to cure her through ritual or, in darker versions of the tale, to destroy her body while her soul was away, trapping the spirit in eternal wandering. This belief led to tragic consequences in some historical cases, providing supernatural justification for violence against women who were simply different, who did not conform to community expectations. From Inuit tradition comes the Kalupalik, a creature that lives beneath the ice, that waits at the edges of frozen waters for careless children. While primarily associated with physical abduction, pulling children through cracks in the ice, the Kalupalik also appears in the nightmares of those who live in Arctic regions, representing the constant anxiety of living in an environment where a moment's inattention can mean death. Children dream of green-scaled skin, of long black hair floating in frozen water, of hands reaching up through gaps in the ice to grab ankles and drag them down into darkness. These dreams served an important function in Inuit culture, reinforcing lessons about safety, about respecting the dangerous environment, about staying close to adults and away from thin ice. The Kalupalik wears an amautik, a parka with a pouch for carrying babies, and in her pouch she keeps the children she has taken, carrying them down into the depths where they are never seen again. The creature exists in that space between cautionary tale and genuine mythology, a teaching tool that also represents real fears, real dangers, the understanding that the Arctic is beautiful but merciless, and that the water beneath the ice is as alien and hostile as the surface of another world. In Ethiopian and Eritrean folklore, the Buddha are people who possess the power to transform into hyenas at night, and in this form they attack sleeping communities. While in hyena form, the Buddha can enter dreams, causing nightmares of being chased, being devoured, being torn apart by savage jaws, These dreams often preceded actual attacks on livestock or, in rare cases, people. The Buddha were usually identified as members of marginalized groups, particularly blacksmiths and other artisans, creating a folklore that unfortunately reinforced social hierarchies and prejudices. Those accused of being Buddha might be ostracized, driven from communities, or worse. What makes the Buddha relevant to our exploration of sleep creatures is how they represent the intersection of dream and reality. How nightmares of hyena attacks might reflect actual dangers from real hyenas, with the supernatural element serving to explain why some people seemed to escape these attacks while others did not. The Buddha possessed the evil eye, the ability to curse or harm with a glance, and this power extended into the dream realm, allowing them to inflict psychological torment before physical danger materialized. The Chol Mayan tradition speaks of the Way, a spirit companion that every person possesses, usually taking animal form. While the Way generally protects its human counterpart, certain evil individuals could train their Way to attack others, particularly through dreams. These corrupted Way would enter the sleeping mind, bringing nightmares, causing sleep paralysis, draining life force, and sometimes causing actual physical illness or death. The victim would dream of being attacked by an animal, a jaguar or snake or bird of prey, and would wake with scratches or marks that seemed to correspond to the dream. In Chol understanding, the dream world and physical world were not separate but interpenetrating, two aspects of a larger reality. What happened in dreams had real consequences, and attacks in the dream realm could manifest as tangible harm. To protect against malevolent Way, individuals would seek the help of shamans who could travel into the dream realm themselves, who could fight spirit battles to defend their communities, who understood how to navigate the boundary between sleeping and waking, between the seen and unseen. Finally, in the folklore of Romania and surrounding regions, the strigoi are among the most complex of undead creatures, and among their many powers is the ability to torment the living through nightmares. A strigoi might be a troubled soul, someone who died under specific circumstances, transformation rather than simply dying. They would return to plague their former communities, appearing in dreams to drain life force, to cause madness, to mark victims for eventual joining in undeath. Unlike many sleep creatures, the strigoi could also manifest physically, attacking in waking life as well as in sleep, making them doubly dangerous. The dreams sent by strigoi were said to be particularly vivid and disturbing, filled with blood and violence, with visions of the dreamer's own death, with imagery designed to weaken the spirit and make the victim more vulnerable to eventual physical attack. Protection against strigoi required complex rituals, from placing garlic at windows to elaborate church ceremonies, from exhuming and properly dealing with the suspected strigoi's corpse to maintaining constant vigilance in both waking and sleeping states. The strigoi represent the culmination of nighttime fears, a creature that attacks from all angles, that gives no respite in sleep or waking, that transforms the entirety of existence into a state of siege. Water has always held a special place in human fear, that boundary between air and liquid, between the world we know and depths we cannot fathom. In Japanese folklore, the Umibozu emerges from calm seas on quiet nights, a massive form rising from water that moments before was still as glass. The Umibozu appears as an enormous bald head, black and glistening with seawater, with eyes that glow faintly in the darkness. Its body, when glimpsed beneath the surface, seems to extend downward infinitely, a column of shadow reaching into depths where no light penetrates. Sailors who encountered the Umibozu reported that it would demand a barrel, and if given one, would use it to sink the ship, scooping water and pouring it over the vessel until it foundered. The only defense was to give the creature a bottomless barrel, allowing it to scoop eternally while the ship escaped. The Umibozu was believed to be the spirit of a drowned monk, a Buddhist priest who perished at sea and whose soul could find no peace in the water. The name itself means sea monk, and in this creature we see Buddhism's influence on maritime folklore, the transformation of religious figures into supernatural beings when they met tragic ends far from temple and tradition. The Kelpie of Scottish folklore haunts freshwater lochs and rivers, appearing as a beautiful horse standing near the water's edge. Its coat is always sleek with moisture, its mane tangled with water weeds, and it will allow anyone to approach, to stroke its nose, even to climb upon its back. But once mounted, the Kelpie's victim finds themselves unable to dismount, their hands adhering to the creature's skin as though glued. The Kelpie then plunges into the water, diving deep, dragging its rider down to drown in the cold, dark depths. In some tellings, the Kelpie devours its victims, leaving only the entrails floating to the surface. In others, it simply drowns them, feeding on their terror and their final breaths. The Kelpie could also take human form, appearing as a handsome man or beautiful woman, always with water dripping from their hair, always with a certain coldness to their skin. They would court lonely travelers, lead them close to water, and then reveal their true nature. The Kelpie represents the danger of Scotland's deep lochs, those dark waters where visibility extends mere inches, where cold can kill in minutes, where currents can pull down even strong swimmers. By giving this danger a face, a form, a personality, Scottish tradition created something that could be warned against, could be taught to children, could be woven into the cultural understanding of water safety. In Welsh mythology, the Cephal WR serves a similar purpose to the Kelpie but possesses its own distinct characteristics. The Cephal WR appears as a gray or white horse, often near waterfalls or fast-flowing streams, and like the Kelpie, it will allow itself to be mounted. But the Cephal WR does not always drown its riders. Sometimes it simply carries them on a terrifying ride through the night, leaping over rivers, charging through forests, exhausting them completely before depositing them far from home, alive but traumatized. Only when genuinely angered does the Cephal WR drown its victims, pulling them into the water and holding them under until they cease struggling. What's particularly interesting about the Cephal WR is its ambiguity. Unlike many water spirits that are purely malevolent, the Cephal WR seems to possess something like a sense of humor, taking pleasure in frightening rather than always killing. This suggests a more complex understanding of nature's dangers, recognizing that water can harm without intending malice, that rivers are powerful but not necessarily evil, that danger and death are not always the same thing. The Vodyanoi of Slavic tradition rules over his domain from the depths of rivers and lakes, appearing as an old man covered in mud and algae, with a long green beard tangled with fish bones and water plants. The Vodyanoi is not simply dangerous but territorial, demanding respect and offerings from those who fish his waters or travel his rivers. Fishermen would leave him the first catch of the day, tossing it back with prayers and tobacco. Millers, whose work depended on rivers, would make more elaborate offerings, sometimes even drowning black animals in the Vodyanoi's honor. Those who failed to show proper respect might find themselves dragged into the water, pulled down to serve the Vodyanoi in his underwater palace, becoming his eternal slaves. The Vodyanoi kept all drowned souls, adding them to his court, and could be heard on quiet nights counting his collection, his voice echoing across the water. During the day, the Vodyanoi slept on the river bottom, but at night he rose to the surface, sometimes sitting on watermills, sometimes walking the banks, always watching for those who disrespected his realm. The Vodyanoi represents humanity's understanding that water is powerful, that it must be approached with respect, that it gives life through fish and power through mills, but can take life just as easily if proper deference is not shown. From Aztec mythology comes the Ahuizotl, a creature that lived in lakes and rivers around Tenochtitlan. The Ahuizotl resembled a dog, or perhaps an otter, covered in smooth gray fur, but at the end of its tail was a human-like hand, complete with fingers and nails. This hand could grasp and pull with tremendous strength. The Ahuizotl would hide beneath the surface, waiting for people to come close to the water's edge, then use its tail hand to grab them, pulling them under to drown. The Ahuizotl particularly desired those who drowned during storms, whose deaths were associated with Tlaloc, the rain god. Bodies taken by the Ahuizotl would wash up days later bloated and marked, and rather than being mourned in the ordinary way, they were celebrated, for dying in water meant entering Tlaloc's paradise, a realm of eternal spring and abundance. Priests would come to retrieve these bodies, conducting special ceremonies, treating the drowned as blessed rather than cursed. The Ahuizotl thus served a dual purpose in Aztec understanding, both as danger and as divine servant, a creature that was frightening but also sacred, that killed but in doing so granted entrance to paradise. The Nixie of Germanic folklore exists in various forms across different regions, but commonly appears as a beautiful woman sitting on rocks near water, combing her long hair. Her skin has a faint greenish tint, her eyes reflect light like a cat's, and her song carries across the water, beautiful and haunting. Men who hear the Nixie's song find themselves compelled to approach, to wade into the water toward her, to swim out even if they know the danger. The Nixie will embrace them, pull them beneath the surface, and they are never seen again. Sometimes the Nixie takes human lovers, living with them on land for a time, but she always returns to the water eventually, and sometimes she takes her lover with her, unwilling to let go. Children born of unions between Nixies and humans were said to have webbed fingers or toes, or to possess an unnatural affinity for water. The Nixie could be kind to those who respected her, helping fishermen find good catches, warning of coming floods, even rescuing those who fell into water accidentally. But she demanded recognition, required offerings, and would punish those who polluted her waters or showed disrespect. In this way, the Nixie served as a personification of water itself, beneficial when respected, deadly when not, beautiful but dangerous, life-giving but capable of drowning the careless. The Encantado of Brazilian folklore comes from the Amazon region, representing the transformation of indigenous beliefs through contact with European and African traditions. The Encantado are dolphin spirits, creatures that live as pink river dolphins but can transform into beautiful humans. They emerge from the water during festivals and celebrations, appearing as handsome men or lovely women dressed in white, always wearing hats to hide their blowholes. The Encantado seduce humans, taking lovers back to the water, to an underwater realm where time moves differently. A night spent with an encantado might be years in the human world, and those who return find their lives have moved on without them. Sometimes the encantado impregnate women, and children born from these unions are said to have unusual characteristics, sometimes even the ability to transform into dolphins themselves. The encantado are not always malevolent, but they are capricious, acting according to their own desires without much concern for human consequences. They represent the Amazon itself, beautiful and seductive but alien, operating according to rules that humans do not fully understand, capable of overwhelming those who venture too deep into its embrace. In Inuit tradition, the Kalupiluit lurks beneath sea ice, waiting near breathing holes and the edges of frozen water. She appears as a humanoid creature with long dark hair, green skin covered in scales, and long fingernails like claws. She wears an amautic, a traditional Inuit parka with a large hood, and she uses this to carry away the children she captures, stuffing them into the hood and taking them beneath the ice. The Kalupiluit hums a strange song that can be heard through ice, a sound that makes children curious, that draws them closer to investigate. Parents use the Kalupiluit as a cautionary figure, warning children to stay away from the ice edge, from breathing holes, from any place where they might fall through into water so cold it can kill in minutes. But the Kalupiluit also represents something deeper, the understanding that the Arctic environment is utterly unforgiving, that it does not care about intentions or innocence, that a child's curiosity can lead to tragedy in seconds. By personifying this danger, Inuit culture created a teaching tool that was more effective than simple warnings, a creature that children could imagine and therefore respect, fostering the constant vigilance necessary for survival in one of Earth's harshest environments. The Jenny Green Teeth of English folklore haunts stagnant ponds and canals, particularly in Lancashire and Cheshire. She appears as an old woman with green skin, long green hair, and teeth that are sharp and numerous, filling her mouth like a lamprey's. Jenny Greenteeth grabs children and unwary adults who venture too close to the water's edge, pulling them in to drown, then feeding on their bodies. The folklore served a practical purpose in warning children away from stagnant water, which could be dangerous not just for drowning but for disease. For many, still ponds were breeding grounds for illness. By making the water itself seem inhabited by a creature, by giving children a specific thing to fear, parents ensured their warnings were taken seriously. Jenny Greenteeth was said to be particularly active when green algae covered the water's surface, the bloom hiding the depths, making it impossible to tell how deep the water was or what lurked beneath. She would grab ankles, pull quickly, and by the time anyone realized something was wrong, the victim was already under, already in her grasp, already lost to the green, dark depths. The Rusalka of Slavic folklore occupies a complex place, at once tragic and terrifying. Rusalki are the spirits of young women who drowned, particularly those who died before marriage, whose deaths were violent or untimely. They inhabit rivers and lakes, appearing as beautiful young women with long hair and pale skin. During certain times of year, particularly around summer solstice, Rusalki leave the water to dance in the forests near rivers, and any man who encounters them may be pulled into their dance. Once caught in the dance, the man cannot stop, cannot pull away, and the Rusalki will dance him to exhaustion, then into the water to drown. Yet Rusalki were not seen as purely evil. They represented tragedy, the waste of young life, the sorrow of women who died before experiencing love and marriage and motherhood. In some traditions, Rusalki could be appeased through ritual, could be given the wedding ceremonies they never had in life, could be honored and thereby made peaceful. They demanded remembrance, insisted on being seen and acknowledged, and their haunting was as much about the living's duty to honor the dead as it was about supernatural danger. The Bunyab of Australian Aboriginal tradition inhabits waterholes, rivers, and swamps, and descriptions of it vary wildly across different Aboriginal nations, suggesting not a single creature but a category of water spirits. Some describe the Bunyip as dog-faced, others as having a long neck like a snake, still others as resembling a giant starfish or something with feathers. What remains consistent is that the Bunyip is dangerous, that it emerges at night, that its cry is terrible and loud, echoing across the water, warning those nearby to flee. The Bunyip protects sacred waterholes, ensuring that proper protocols are followed, that the water is approached with respect. It punishes those who pollute or damage waterways, who take more than they need, who show disrespect to the land. In this sense, the Bunyip serves an ecological function in Aboriginal culture, enforcing sustainable practices through fear of supernatural consequences. Aboriginal elders have noted that the Bunyip tradition may have originated from ancestral memories of now extinct megafauna, large marsupials that lived in water, creating a folklore that preserves cultural memory of creatures that vanished thousands of years ago. From Maori tradition comes Taniwa, powerful water spirits that inhabit oceans, rivers, and caves near water. Taniwa take many forms, sometimes appearing as giant reptiles, other times as dragons or enormous fish, occasionally as supernatural beings without clear physical form. Each iwi, each tribe, has relationships with specific Taniwa, some protective, others dangerous. A Taniwa might guard a particular stretch of river, demand tribute from those who travel it, and punish those who fail to show respect. Some Taniwa were beneficial, warning of tsunamis, protecting travelers, helping communities fish. Others were malevolent, drowning canoes, dragging swimmers to the depths, demanding human sacrifices. The complexity of Taniwa tradition reflects Maori understanding that nature is not simply good or bad, but must be negotiated with, respected, approached properly. Taniwa could change their behavior based on how they were treated, suggesting that the relationship between humans and the natural world was reciprocal, that respect would be returned with protection, while disrespect invited disaster. The Afank of Welsh legend lived in a specific lake, Llyn Barfog, though stories of similar creatures appear throughout Wales. The Afank resembled a crocodile or perhaps a giant beaver, enormous and aggressive, with the power to cause floods by thrashing in its lake. It would pull travelers into the water, drag livestock from the banks, and generally terrorize the surrounding region. The legendary Hu Gadarn eventually managed to chain the Afank and drag it from the lake using 2 enormous oxen, though the strain was so great that one ox's eyes burst from the effort. The Afank was relocated to a lake so deep it could never escape, where it presumably still lives in the cold, dark bottom. What makes the Afank interesting is its physicality, the way it is described almost like an extinct animal rather than a purely supernatural being, leading some to suggest the legend might preserve memories of creatures that once inhabited Britain, perhaps even crocodilians from warmer prehistoric periods, their memory distorted through millennia of retelling into something more monstrous. In Mesopotamian tradition, the Apkallu were 7 sages sent by the god Ea to teach humanity civilization, knowledge, and arts, They appeared as humans with fish characteristics, or as fish with human heads, and they emerged from the sea to bring wisdom. Yet, in later traditions, particularly in magical texts, entities resembling the Apkallu, but corrupted, fallen, began to appear. These corrupted water beings would drag people into rivers and canals, would cause drownings, would plague communities with misfortune. They represented knowledge turned to harmful purposes, wisdom corrupted, the understanding that water giveth and water taketh away. Mesopotamian magical texts prescribe rituals to protect against these beings, incantations to drive them from waterways, ceremonies to purify contaminated water. The existence of both beneficial Apkallu and harmful water spirits in the same tradition suggests a sophisticated understanding of ambiguity, recognition that the same force can help or harm depending on circumstances. The kappa of Japanese folklore deserves mention here, despite being relatively well known, because the versions that persist in popular culture have been significantly softened from the original tales. The kappa inhabits rivers and ponds, appearing as something between a turtle and a child, with a shell on its back and a depression on its head that holds water. If this water spills, the kappa loses its power. The kappa were genuinely dangerous in original folklore, drowning swimmers, pulling children into ponds, attacking women washing clothes by the river. They had a particular obsession with shirikodama, a mythical ball supposedly located inside the human anus, and would attempt to extract this by drowning victims. This grotesque detail has been largely removed from modern retellings, but it speaks to the genuinely disturbing nature of the original folklore. The kappa could be placated through politeness. If you bowed to a kappa, it would bow back, spilling the water from its head and becoming powerless. This detail teaches children manners while also suggesting that even dangerous beings can be dealt with through proper behavior, through maintaining cultural norms even in frightening situations. The Noka, or Naken, of Scandinavian folklore appears in both male and female forms, always near water, always beautiful, always dangerous. The male Naken plays a fiddle or similar instrument, music so beautiful that those who hear it cannot resist, walking toward the sound even if it leads them into rivers or lakes. The female Naken appears as a stunningly beautiful woman, sometimes washing clothes by the river, sometimes simply standing in the shallows, her hair covering her naked back. But if glimpsed from behind, her back is hollow like a rotted tree trunk, revealing her supernatural nature. Those who fall for the Noken's lure, whether through music or beauty, are pulled into the water to drown. In some traditions, the Noken could be appeased through offerings, through showing respect, through acknowledging its presence. In others, it was simply a danger to be avoided, a reason to stay away from water alone, to resist beautiful music heard in twilight, to never trust appearances near rivers and lakes. The CSG of Scottish Highlands folklore was a mermaid, but more dangerous than the romanticized versions modern culture imagines. The CSG had the upper body of a beautiful woman and the lower body of a salmon, and she inhabited the waters of Highland lochs. Like many water spirits, she could grant wishes to those who captured her, but capturing a Seask required tremendous luck and skill, and most who tried ended up drowning. The Siag would seduce men, lure them into the water, and either drown them or, in some cases, take them to an underwater realm where they lived as her consort, unable to return to the surface, aging normally while their families searched for them, eventually dying far below the world they knew. Children born of unions between CSG and humans were said to have extraordinary beauty, but would always feel pulled toward the water, would eventually return to the lochs, would disappear beneath the surface just as their inhuman parent had. The Kalupalik already mentioned in the context of sleep deserves fuller exploration as a water creature. Beyond her role in nightmares, the Kalupalik represents the ocean's absolute indifference to human life, the way Arctic waters can kill so quickly that rescue is impossible. The creature is said to tap on sea ice from below, the sound almost like someone knocking, attracting curious children to investigate. When they bend close to listen, she breaks through or grabs them through cracks, pulling them instantly into water so cold it stops the heart. The Kalupalik keeps her captured children alive in the pouch of her amautik, swimming with them through the dark waters beneath the ice, taking them to her home in the deepest trenches where no light penetrates. What she does with them there, the stories do not say, perhaps because the thought is too terrible to speak aloud, or perhaps because the storytellers recognize that the imagination supplies horrors more effectively than description ever could. The Jenny Green Teeth has a cousin in Peg Powler, who haunts the River Tees in North Yorkshire. Peg Powler has long green hair, green skin, and a particular hunger for children. She creates foam on the river's surface, which locals called Peg Powler's suds, a sign that she was active and hunting. When fog rose from the water, that was Peg Powler's breath. When the river ran fast and dangerous, that was Peg Powler in a rage. Parents would point to these natural phenomena and use them to teach children about the river's dangers, creating a folklore that made abstract danger concrete, that turned the impersonal violence of nature into something with personality, with patterns, with rules that could be learned and followed. Stay away when you see foam. Don't go near when fog is rising. Respect the river when it runs fast. These rules, framed as protection against a supernatural creature, taught genuine water safety, likely saving countless lives while simultaneously enriching the cultural landscape with folklore. Finally, from Caribbean tradition, particularly Trinidad and Tobago, comes Mama de Lo, the mother of rivers and streams. Mama de Lo appears as a beautiful woman from the waist up, but her lower half is that of an anaconda, massive and powerful. She protects rivers and the creatures that live in them, punishing those who pollute, who overfish, who show disrespect to the water. Those who encounter Mama de Lo and treat her with respect may be granted safe passage or even gifts. Those who disrespect her are pulled into the water, drowned, their bodies never found. Mama de Lo represents the Caribbean understanding of water as simultaneously life-giving and dangerous, as something that must be treated with respect, as a force that will provide abundance if honored but will destroy if treated carelessly. Her mythology combines indigenous Taino beliefs, African traditions brought by enslaved peoples, and European folklore into something uniquely Caribbean, a creature that reflects the cultural mixing that defines the island's heritage. Forests have always existed at the edge of human civilization, places where the familiar ends and the unknown begins. In Slavic folklore, the Leshy rules the forest as its guardian and embodiment, appearing as a tall man covered in moss and bark, with eyes that glow like an animal's in darkness. The Leshy can change size at will, growing as tall as the trees when angry, shrinking to hide beneath mushrooms when it wishes to remain unseen. It leads travelers astray, making paths disappear, causing familiar landmarks to shift, turning a simple walk into a maze where every direction leads deeper into wilderness. Those lost by the Leshy wander for days, for weeks, sometimes forever, their bones eventually found by hunters who know better than to chase game too deep into the forest. The Leshy protects animals, particularly during mating and birthing seasons, and will punish hunters who kill mothers with young, or who take more than they need. To appease the Leshy, hunters leave offerings at the forest edge, bread and salt, sometimes vodka, always with respect. The Leshy teaches an important lesson, that the forest is not humanity's to exploit without consequence, that nature has its own rules and its own guardian, that walking into the trees means entering another's territory where human laws no longer apply. The Huldra of Scandinavian tradition appears as a beautiful woman, often seen from the front, with long hair and a lovely face, sometimes carrying a basket of mushrooms or berries. But if glimpsed from behind, her back is hollow like a rotted tree trunk, or she possesses a cow's tail that she tries to hide beneath her skirt. The Huldra lives deep in the forest, in a place that seems to exist slightly apart from normal reality, where time moves differently. She can seduce men, taking them to her home, and if they marry her and treat her well, she becomes fully human, her hollow back filling in, her tail disappearing. But men who mistreat her, who reveal her nature to others, who break promises made to her, find themselves cursed, lost forever in the forest, or driven mad by visions and sounds that never stop. The Huldra represents the forest's seductive beauty, the way wilderness can seem welcoming, safe, beautiful, only to reveal its danger when one has already committed, already ventured too deep. She embodies the truth that nature makes no promises, that what seems safe can become deadly, that the forest's gift of beauty comes with responsibilities and risks. The Curupira of Brazilian folklore protects the Amazon rainforest, appearing as a small man or boy with bright red hair and feet that point backward. The backward feet are crucial, for they confuse trackers, making it appear the Curupira has gone in the opposite direction from his actual path. The Curupira rides a peccary, a wild pig native to the Amazon, and he punishes those who hunt illegally, who set traps that injure animals unnecessarily, who cut trees without purpose or respect. Those who anger the Curupira become lost instantly, no matter how well they know the forest. Paths they have traveled hundreds of times become alien and strange. Sounds come from the wrong directions. The sun seems to move in ways that make no sense. Days blur into one another, and some who anger the Curupira are never seen again, while others emerge weeks later, emaciated and traumatized, speaking of impossible things they witnessed in the green depths. The Curupira represents indigenous Amazonian understanding that the forest is not a resource to be exploited, but a living entity to be respected, that taking from the forest requires giving back, that the relationship between humans and nature must be balanced, or nature will balance it through force. In Irish mythology, the Dullahan rides through forests on moonless nights, a headless figure on a black horse, carrying his own severed head under one arm. The head's eyes glow with supernatural light, and its mouth grins in a rictus that never changes. Where the Dullahan stops, someone dies. He appears at the homes of the dying, calling out their names, and when he speaks a name, that person's death is sealed, inevitable within hours or at most days. The Dullahan cannot be stopped by locked doors or gates. He throws basins of blood on those who try to watch him, marking them for future attention. The only thing that repels the Dullahan is gold. Even a single gold pin held up will cause him to turn aside, to seek another route. The Dullahan rides through forests particularly, appearing on forest paths at the edges of woods, anywhere the trees grow thick enough that darkness persists even during the day. He represents death's inevitability, the understanding that all paths eventually lead to the same end, that the forest through which we all must walk, no matter how we try to avoid it. The Cuan Andwawen, the hounds of Anion from Welsh mythology, run through forests on wild hunts, led by Aran, king of the Welsh otherworld. These hounds appear white with red ears, and their howling can be heard for miles, a sound that starts distant and grows closer, filling listeners with inexplicable dread. The peculiar thing about the Tsidojan and Wyan is that their howling sounds loudest when they are far away and grows quieter as they approach, making it impossible to judge their distance, impossible to know if they are miles away or right behind you. Those who see the Kwabuen and Wyan are marked for death within the year, though not by the hounds themselves. Rather, the hounds collect souls that are already destined to die, hunting spirits rather than living flesh. Sometimes, living people hear the hunt passing overhead, the sound of hooves and hounds moving through the air above the trees, and on these nights it is best to stay indoors, to avoid looking up, to let the hunt pass without acknowledgement. The CWN and WN represent the thin boundary between life and death, the understanding that in forests, especially at night, the other world draws near, that barriers between realities grow permeable in places where nature remains wild. From Filipino folklore comes the Tikbalang, a creature that inhabits bamboo groves and dense forests, appearing as a tall humanoid with the head and hooves of a horse. The Tikbalang is a trickster, leading travelers astray, making them walk in circles, confusing their sense of direction so completely that they might spend hours wandering a small area without realizing it. The Tikbalang particularly enjoys tormenting those who are arrogant, who enter the forest without showing respect, who boast about their navigational abilities. To break free from a Tikbalang's influence, one must turn their shirt inside out, disrupting the creature's magic. Alternatively, if you can leap onto a Tikbalang's back and pull 3 golden hairs from its mane, it will become your servant, bound to obey your commands. But this is tremendously difficult, for the Tikbalang is strong and fast and has no desire to be tamed. The Tikbalang represents the forest's ability to disorient, the way familiar places can become alien, the understanding that confidence and knowledge mean little when nature decides to assert its dominance. The Lesavka, the female counterpart to the Leshy in some Slavic traditions, appears as a woman dressed in leaves and moss, with long hair the color of autumn. She is the spirit of deciduous forests particularly, and she leads children away from safe paths, luring them deeper into the woods with songs and the promise of berries or interesting sights. Children who follow the Lesavka are found days later, if they are found at all, confused and unable to explain where they have been or what they saw. The Lesavka is not always malevolent. Sometimes she protects children who are lost, keeping them safe until they can be found, keeping predators away, providing shelter. But she expects respect, expects offerings left at forest shrines, expects that people remember the forest is alive and aware. Those who forget, who treat the forest as dead matter to be used, may find their own children vanishing into the trees, may hear songs on the wind but never find the singer, may walk paths that seem safe until suddenly they are not. In Japanese folklore, the Kodama are spirits that inhabit trees, particularly old-growth trees that have stood for centuries. The kodama appear as small humanoid creatures, or sometimes simply as glowing orbs of light that float between branches. When trees containing kodama are cut, misfortune befalls the person who cut them. Tools break, injuries occur, illness strikes. The kodama's presence can be detected by the echo that occurs in certain forests, a strange repetition of sounds that seems to come from the trees themselves. This echo, called kodama in Japanese, is both the spirit and the phenomenon named after each other, a linguistic circularity that reflects the deep connection between the supernatural and the natural in Japanese understanding. The kodama teaches reverence for old growth, for trees that have stood long enough to develop spirits, for the understanding that some things should not be cut simply because they can be, that age commands respect, that what has endured for centuries has earned the right to continue enduring. The guyabano of Filipino mythology is less well known than the tikbalang, but equally significant in forest folklore. The guyabano guards fruit trees in the forest, particularly those that bear the soursop fruit from which it takes its name. It appears as a twisted, humanoid figure covered in bark and thorns, with eyes like knotholes in wood. Those who take fruit without asking permission, who harvest more than they need, who damage trees in the process of gathering, will find themselves cursed by the guyabano. Their mouths will fill with the taste of rot, food will turn to ash on their tongues, and they will suffer stomach ailments that no medicine can cure until they return to the forest, find the tree they violated, and make proper apology with offerings. The guyabano represents sustainable harvesting practices encoded in folklore, the understanding that forests provide abundance but only if treated properly, that taking requires gratitude, that waste and greed invite supernatural punishment because they invite ecological collapse. From Germanic tradition comes the Earl King, a figure of terrifying power who rules the Black Forest in some tellings. The Earl King appears as a nobleman in archaic clothing, riding a dark horse, always seen at twilight or dawn, always in the deepest parts of the forest where light barely penetrates. The Earl King particularly targets children who wander into the forest, speaking to them in soft voices, promising them wonders, offering them gifts. Children who listen, who follow, who accept the Earl King's promises are never seen again. They join his court in a realm that exists between the trees, neither truly in the forest nor in the human world, trapped in eternal childhood, playing eternal games, forever separated from their families. The German poet Goethe immortalized the Erl King in a ballad where a father rides through the night with his sick child, and the child sees the Erl King and hears his promises while the father sees and hears nothing. By the time they reach home, the child has died, claimed by the forest king. This story reflects parental anxiety about losing children, the fear that the forest represents danger that adults cannot protect against, that innocence and curiosity can lead to tragedy. The Nakalavi from Orcadian folklore, while often associated with the sea, also terrorizes forests and lands near the coast. The Nukalavi appears as a horrifying fusion of horse and rider, but both are one creature, skinless, with black blood visible through transparent flesh, with breath that wilts plants and spreads disease. The Nukalavi emerges from the sea during winter months, bringing blight to crops, disease to livestock, death to anyone unfortunate enough to encounter it. It cannot cross fresh water, so streams and rivers provide protection, and it retreats to the ocean when summer arrives. The Nukalavi represents winter's harshness in northern climates, the way disease spreads in cold months, the death of vegetation, the danger of traveling when weather turns hostile. By giving these natural phenomena supernatural form, Orcadian culture created something that could be discussed, prepared for, protected against through ritual and care. In Maori tradition, the Aus Patupayarehe are fairy-like beings who inhabit forests, particularly in mountainous regions. They appear as pale-skinned humanoids, taller than ordinary people, with red or golden hair, and they live in villages hidden in the mist. The Patupayarehe emerge at night or during fog, playing flutes that produce hauntingly beautiful music. Humans who hear this music and follow it into the forest may never return, joining the Patupayarehe in their hidden realm. Alternatively, they may return changed, possessing strange knowledge, speaking of things they should not know, never quite fitting back into human society. The Patupayarehe sometimes steal human children, replacing them with their own offspring or simply taking the child to raise as one of them. They avoid sunlight and cooked food, subsisting on raw foods and appearing only when mist hides them from the sun's rays. The Patupayarehe represent the mystery of forests, the way mist transforms familiar landscapes into alien realms. The understanding that in certain conditions, the boundary between human world and spirit world grows thin. The Green Man of various European traditions is less a single entity than an archetype, appearing in different forms across different regions, but always representing the forest's life force. The Green Man appears as a face made of leaves, or as a human figure from which plants grow, or as a presence felt rather than seen, the sense that the forest is watching, aware, possessed of intention. In some traditions, the Green Man protects the forest and its inhabitants. In others, he tests those who enter, determining if they are worthy of passage or should be driven out. In darker versions, the Green Man is a force of wild nature, neither good nor evil but utterly indifferent to human concerns, as likely to let you pass as to ensure you never leave. The Green Man appears in medieval church carvings throughout Europe, pagan imagery adopted into Christian architecture, suggesting the deep roots of this figure in European consciousness, the recognition that forests predate human civilization and will outlast it, that nature possesses a power that even religion must acknowledge. From Native American traditions, specifically from the Pacific Northwest, stories tell of the Stick Indians, beings that inhabit deep forests and are both dangerous and mysterious. The Stick Indians appear as tall, thin humanoids that move through forests making sounds like wood knocking on wood, communicating with each other in ways humans cannot understand. They avoid direct confrontation but will lead people astray, will steal food from camps, will cause technology to malfunction, will create sounds and disturbances that terrify without revealing their source. Different tribes have different traditions regarding Stick Indians, some viewing them as purely malevolent, others as neutral beings that simply want to be left alone. What remains consistent is that encounters with Stick Indians are unsettling, that they possess a power to affect human perception and experience, that seeing them or hearing their wood-knocking sounds is cause for immediate concern and careful behavior. This tradition requires respectful treatment, recognition that it comes from living cultures with ongoing relationships to these beliefs. The Bakaneko of Japanese folklore is a cat that has lived long enough or grown large enough to develop supernatural powers, and these creatures sometimes make their homes in forests, particularly in abandoned shrines or temples reclaimed by wilderness. The Bakaneko can take human form, can speak human languages, can walk on hind legs, and possesses intelligence equal to or exceeding human intelligence. A bakaneko might lure travelers deeper into the forest, taking the form of a lost child or an injured person, leading them away from safe paths. Some bakaneko are vengeful, targeting those who mistreated cats or animals in general. Others are simply amoral, playing with humans as a cat plays with prey, without malice but without mercy either. The bakaneko represents the understanding that animals, particularly predators, possess their own intelligence and agency, that they are not simply resources or scenery but beings with their own purposes, and that in forests, where human dominance is less absolute, the balance of power shifts. In Amazonian traditions from various indigenous groups, the mapinguari is described as a giant sloth-like creature that walks upright, covered in thick red fur, with a second mouth on its belly and an odor so terrible it can knock people unconscious. The mapinguari roams deep jungle areas, and its scream can be heard for miles, a sound that freezes prey in terror. Some researchers have suggested the mapinguari legend might preserve memories of the giant ground sloth, extinct for thousands of years, but potentially surviving in human memory through oral tradition. Whether based on extinct megafauna or purely mythological, the mapinguari represents the Amazon's capacity to hide things, to contain unknowns, to remain mysterious despite centuries of exploration. The creature punishes those who hunt on Sundays or holy days, who kill animals unnecessarily, who show disrespect to the forest. In this way, it serves as guardian of religious observance and sustainable practice, its supernatural terror enforcing both spiritual and ecological rules. The Pukwudgi of Wampanoag tradition are small humanoid creatures, about 2 to 3 feet tall, with gray skin, large ears, and a distinctive appearance. They live in forests, particularly in areas with significant rock formations or caves, and they possess magical abilities including the power to appear and disappear, to transform, and to use poisoned arrows. The Pukwudgi were originally friendly with humans, but according to legend, the giant Maushop insulted them, and since then they have been hostile, attacking humans who enter their territory. The Pukwudgi can control fire, can create dangerous situations, can cause people to lose their way even in familiar forests. They are particularly active at night and are said to be responsible for mysterious disappearances in forests throughout New England. The Pukwudgi tradition teaches respect for the forest and recognition that not all beings welcome human presence, that some places belong to others, that the wise traveler shows respect and caution. From Celtic tradition comes the Sluag, hosts of the restless dead who fly through forests in flocks, particularly during winter months. The Sluag appear as dark shadows or clouds of darkness that move against the wind, and they try to enter houses through windows, particularly targeting dying people to steal their souls before they can pass on properly. The Sluag come from the west, from where the setting sun descends, and they collect souls of those who were neither good enough for heaven nor bad enough for hell, condemned to fly eternally in hungry flocks. In forests, the Sluag nest in dead trees, in hollow trunks, in places where life has retreated. They can be heard at night, a sound like wind through branches but with something wrong about it, something that includes whispers, moans, the sound of countless voices speaking at once. The Sluag represent death's persistence, the understanding that forests contain not just living things but dead things, not just growth but decay, that for every tree growing there are 10 rotting, that death surrounds us always, waiting. The ghillie-dhu of Scottish folklore is unusual among forest creatures in being genuinely helpful to lost children. The ghillie-dhu appears as a small humanoid covered in leaves and moss, with the dark skin and hair like woven grass. He inhabits birch groves particularly, and will guide children who are lost back to safety, protecting them from other forest dangers, ensuring they do not suffer from cold or hunger. The ghillie-dhu is shy and avoids adults, vanishing if grown humans approach, but children can see him and accept his help without fear. He represents the forest's capacity for mercy, for protection, for the understanding that wilderness is not universally hostile, that nature can shelter as well as threaten. The ghillie-dhu teaches that respect for nature earns nature's respect in return, that the forest is dangerous to the arrogant but protective to the innocent, that approaching wilderness with humility rather than dominance opens possibilities for harmony. In Hungarian and Romanian folklore, the ergot represents a different kind of forest danger, associated with a fungus that grows on rye and other grains, but which was understood through supernatural lens. When people ate bread made from infected grain, they would experience hallucinations, convulsions, and sometimes death. But before modern understanding of ergot poisoning, these symptoms were attributed to forest spirits or curses. People who wandered into forests in ergot-induced states would see creatures that seemed absolutely real, would experience time distortions, would encounter beings that spoke to them, and these experiences were interpreted as genuine supernatural encounters. This represents an interesting intersection where natural causes produced supernatural interpretations, where fungal poisoning created folklore, where chemistry and mythology became intertwined in ways that communities could not separate. Finally, the wild hunt appears in various forms across European traditions, but in Germanic and Celtic versions particularly, it rides through forests on stormy nights. The hunt consists of supernatural beings, sometimes dead souls, sometimes fey creatures, sometimes gods or their servants, all riding horses or flying through the air, accompanied by hounds, pursuing prey that is never quite seen. Those who witness the wild hunt must throw themselves face down on the ground, must not look up, must not acknowledge what passes overhead. Those who fail to do so, who meet the eyes of the hunters or call out to them, are swept up and forced to join the hunt, riding forever through storm and darkness, never resting, never stopping, eternally pursuing something that can never be caught. The wild hunt represents the forest's wildness made manifest, the understanding that some forces cannot be resisted or reasoned with, that in certain moments one's only option is submission, is making oneself small and hoping to be overlooked, is surviving by not challenging powers vastly greater than oneself. The ability to change shape, to become something other than what one appears, has fascinated and terrified humans across every culture. In Chinese mythology, the Hulijing are fox spirits that can transform into beautiful women after living for 50 years, and with each additional 50 years of life, they gain another tail, up to a maximum of 9. The Hulijing in their human form are impossibly beautiful, with an ethereal quality that marks them as not quite natural even when their disguise is perfect. They seduce men, sometimes for food, sometimes for life force, sometimes simply for companionship or amusement. A Hulijing might live with a man for years, bearing children who appear fully human, before her true nature is discovered, usually through some small mistake. A tale glimpsed in reflection, fox-like mannerisms that emerge in moments of distraction. The Huli Jing can be benevolent or malevolent. Their morality is varied as humans themselves. Some become devoted wives, protecting their families fiercely. Others drain their lovers dry and move on to new victims. The Huli Jing represents the anxiety about truly knowing another person, the understanding that beauty can conceal danger, that even intimate relationships contain mysteries, that we can share our lives with someone and still not know their deepest nature. In Korean tradition, the Kumiho shares similarities with the Chinese Huli Jing, but is almost universally malevolent. The Kumiho is a nine-tailed fox that transforms into a beautiful woman specifically to prey on humans, usually men. Unlike the Huli Jing, which might genuinely love the humans it encounters, the Kumiho sees humans purely as food. The Kumiho must consume 100 human livers to become fully human itself, to transform from spirit into flesh, to gain a soul rather than simply imitating one. The Kumiho's human form is perfect, flawless, and possibly beautiful, but there are signs for those who know what to look for. Her shadow might reveal her true form. Her reflection in still water might show 9 tails. She avoids dogs, which can sense her true nature and bark madly in her presence. The Kumiho represents temptation in its most dangerous form, the understanding that desire can override caution, that beauty can be weapon as much as gift, that transformation is often predatory, the powerful changing shape to hunt the vulnerable more effectively. Japanese kitsune occupy a middle ground between Chinese and Korean fox spirits, capable of being either benevolent or malevolent, possessing up to 9 tails, living for thousands of years. Kitsune serve the Inari deity, associated with rice, fertility, and prosperity, and in this role they are protective, helpful, blessing those who show them respect. But kitsune can also be tricksters, shape-shifting to fool humans for amusement or revenge. A kitsune might transform into a beautiful woman and marry a human man, living peacefully for years before some circumstance forces her to reveal her true nature and flee. The children of such unions are said to possess unusual abilities, sometimes including the power to transform partially, gaining fox ears or tails in moments of strong emotion. Kitsune can possess humans, causing illness or madness, speaking through the victim's mouth, controlling their actions. Kitsune tsuki, fox possession, was recognized in Japanese society, with specific rituals developed to exorcise the fox spirit and return the person to their normal state. The kitsune embodies transformation's ambiguity, the way change can be blessing or curse, the understanding that the same power to help can also harm. The selkie of Scottish and Irish folklore lives as a seal in the ocean but can shed its skin to take human form on land. Selkies often appear as beautiful women, though male selkies exist as well, and they sometimes take human lovers, even marrying and living on land for years. But the selkie always retains its sealskin, hiding it carefully, for without the skin it cannot return to the sea. If a human finds and hides a selkie's skin, the selkie is trapped in human form, unable to transform, unable to leave. Many stories tell of men who steal selkie skins, forcing the selkie to marry them, to bear children, to live a life on land. But the selkie always longs for the sea, always searches for the hidden skin, and when finally found, the selkie immediately transforms and returns to the ocean, abandoning husband and children without hesitation. The selkie represents the understanding that transformation is identity, that what we are cannot be permanently suppressed, that forcing someone to be something they are not creates only temporary illusion, that true nature will eventually reassert itself no matter the cost. In Irish folklore, the pucha is a shapeshifter that most commonly appears as a black horse, but can take many forms including goats, rabbits, or even human shape. The pucha is fundamentally a trickster, delighting in frightening humans, in leading them astray, in creating chaos and confusion. A pucha might appear as a beautiful horse and offer a ride, then transform mid-gallop into something terrifying, throwing its rider. Or it might speak in human voice, offering advice that seems helpful but leads to disaster. The pucha is not always malevolent, however. Sometimes it helps farmers with their work. Sometimes it offers genuine wisdom. Sometimes it protects those who show it respect. The key to dealing with a pucha is respect without familiarity, acknowledging its power without presuming to control or fully understand it. The pucha teaches that transformation is power, that the ability to change form means freedom from human categories and expectations, that beings who can be anything are ultimately unknowable, definable only by their actions in specific moments, rather than by any essential nature. The Naga of Hindu and Buddhist tradition are serpent beings that can take human form, usually appearing as beautiful humans with subtle snake-like characteristics, scales visible on close inspection, eyes that might reflect light like a serpent's, movements that are too fluid, too sinuous. Naga are neither purely good nor evil, but possess their own complex morality, their own kingdoms beneath the earth or beneath water, their own cultures and histories that predate human civilization. Some Naga are protective, guarding treasures or sacred sites, blessing those who approach with proper respect. Others are vengeful, attacking those who disturb their domains or pollute their waters. Naga can mate with humans, and the resulting children possess special abilities, sometimes including the power to transform partially into serpent form. The Buddha himself was protected by a Naga king, who sheltered him with his hood during meditation, and this image appears frequently in Buddhist art. The Naga represents transformation as liminality, as existing between categories, as being neither fully one thing nor another but possessing attributes of both, navigating multiple realms, belonging fully to none. The Rakshasas of Hindu mythology are shape-shifting demons that can appear in any form, from beautiful humans to terrifying monsters with multiple heads and arms. Rakshasas are fundamentally opposed to Dharma, to cosmic order, and they use their shape-shifting abilities to deceive, to infiltrate human society, to corrupt and destroy from within. A Rakshasa might appear as a holy man, teaching false wisdom. It might appear as a beautiful woman, seducing and draining righteous men. It might appear as a trusted advisor, whispering poison into a king's ear. Rakshasas are tremendously powerful, skilled in magic and warfare, and they can only be defeated through righteousness, through unwavering adherence to Dharma, through divine intervention. The Rakshasa represents transformation as deception, as the perversion of natural abilities, as power used not to transcend limitations but to exploit them, to turn the world's complexity against itself, to make trust impossible and truth unrecognizable. In Aztec mythology, the Nagual is both a concept and a creature, a spiritual guardian that takes animal form and shares a life bond with a human. When a person is born, their Nagual is born simultaneously, and throughout their lives, what happens to one affects the other. If the Nagual is injured, the human feels pain. If the human dies, the Nagual dies. Powerful individuals, particularly sorcerers, could consciously transform into their Nagual, taking animal form while their human body slept. These transformed sorcerers could travel great distances, could spy on enemies, could attack in animal form while being beyond suspicion in human form. The Nagual tradition was sophisticated, recognizing that transformation was not simply physical but spiritual, that the boundary between human and animal was more permeable than colonial European understanding acknowledged, that identity could span multiple forms simultaneously. The Nagual represents transformation as completeness, as the full realization of one's total nature rather than the suppression of part of oneself. The Aswang of Filipino folklore is perhaps the most complex shapeshifter in world mythology, a term that encompasses multiple types of creatures united by their ability to transform and their predatory nature. The Aswang can appear as a beautiful woman by day, living normally in a community, but at night separates her upper body from her lower body, growing wings to fly and hunt for prey, particularly targeting pregnant women and children. Alternatively, the Aswang might transform completely into a dog, a pig, or a large bird. What makes the Aswang particularly disturbing is that it lives among normal people, might be your neighbor, your friend, even your family member, revealing its true nature only in darkness. Tests exist to identify Aswang, looking into someone's eyes while standing on your head, using special oils, observing whether someone's reflection appears upside down. The Aswang represents paranoia about transformation, the fear that anyone could be hiding monstrous nature, that the person you trust might be the danger you fear, that transformation allows predators to hide in plain sight. The Wendigo of Algonquian tradition is a transformation brought about by desperate circumstances and forbidden acts. When a person resorts to cannibalism, particularly in winter when trapped by snow and starvation, they risk becoming Wendigo, transformed from human into a gaunt, eternally hungry creature with an insatiable need to consume human flesh. The more the Wendigo eats, the hungrier it becomes, growing larger with each victim but never satisfied, locked in a cycle of endless craving. The Wendigo represents the most extreme form of transformation as punishment, as the physical manifestation of moral transgression, as the understanding that breaking certain taboos changes you fundamentally and irreversibly. However, it is crucial to note that Wendigo is a sacred concept in Algonquian culture, not entertainment, and has been widely misappropriated in popular culture. Out of respect for the living traditions to which this belongs, we acknowledge it briefly and move forward, recognizing our limitations as outsiders to this tradition. The Berserker of Norse tradition represents transformation through ritual and trance. Warriors who became berserkers would enter altered states before battle, taking on the attributes of bears or wolves, fighting with superhuman strength and ferocity, feeling no pain, fearing nothing. Whether this transformation was purely psychological, enhanced by drugs, or represented genuine supernatural change was debated even in historical sources. Berserkers were both valued and feared, tremendous assets in battle but dangerous to have nearby in peacetime, prone to violence, difficult to control. The transformation was not permanent, but had to be renewed through ritual, through working oneself into the appropriate mental state, through temporarily abandoning human consciousness for animal fury. The Berserker represents transformation as choice, as something deliberately embraced despite dangers, as power that comes with loss of control, as the recognition that civilization and its discontents can be temporarily shed by those willing to pay the price. In Scottish folklore, The Baoban Sith appear as beautiful women dressed in green, sometimes with deer hooves instead of feet hidden beneath their long dresses. They appear to travelers, particularly young men, offering to dance. Once the dance begins, the Baoban Sith reveal their true nature, transforming from beautiful women into vampiric creatures that drain their victims' blood. The transformation is gradual, the beauty fading as the true form emerges, giving victims time to realize their danger but often not time to escape. The Baoban Sith can be repelled by iron or by finding shelter before dawn, but those caught dancing in the night rarely survive. The Baoban Sith represents transformation as revelation, as the gradual unveiling of true nature, as the understanding that what attracts can also destroy, that beauty and danger are not opposites, but can be aspects of the same thing. The Boto, or Amazon river dolphin, is believed in Brazilian folklore to transform into a handsome man during festivals and celebrations. The transformed Boto wears white clothing and a hat to hide his blowhole, and he seduces young women, impregnating them before returning to the river at dawn. Children born from these encounters are said to be Filho do Boto, children of the dolphin, and the Boto legend serves as explanation for pregnancies outside marriage, allowing communities to accept children without assigning blame or shame to their mothers. The Boto represents transformation as escape from social consequences, as mythological explanation for biological realities, as the community's way of managing situations that might otherwise cause conflict, as folklore that serves protective social functions even while remaining fantastical. In Chinese tradition, the jiangshi, often called the Chinese hopping vampire, represents transformation after death. A corpse that has been improperly buried, or whose soul cannot rest, or which has been possessed by certain spirits, becomes jiangshi, reanimating as a stiff-bodied creature that moves by hopping because rigor mortis has made normal movement impossible. The jiangshi drains life force from the living, growing stronger with each victim, potentially transforming from a mindless creature into an intelligent and powerful being. The jiangshi can be stopped by placing a sticky rice paper talisman on its forehead, by scattering rice or beans which it compulsively stops to count, or by holding one's breath as it locates victims by sensing their breathing. The jiangshi represents transformation as corruption, as the perversion of death's natural process, as what happens when proper rituals are not observed, when respect is not shown to the deceased, when the boundary between living and dead is not properly maintained. The encantado has already been mentioned in water contexts, but the transformation itself deserves deeper exploration. The shift from dolphin to human is said to be accompanied by immense pain, the body restructuring itself, bones reforming, flesh reshaping. The encantado can maintain human form only temporarily, must return to water regularly, and can never fully integrate into human society despite appearing perfectly human. The transformation is both gift and curse, allowing the encantado to experience human pleasure and connection, but ensuring they can never truly belong to either world, remaining forever liminal, forever between. This represents transformation as alienation, as the price of crossing boundaries, as the understanding that gaining access to multiple worlds often means fully belonging to none. In Korean folklore, the dokkaebi are goblin-like creatures that can transform objects into gold or treasures, though these transformations are usually temporary, revealing themselves as illusions when the dokkaebi is gone. The dokaebi themselves can transform their appearance, growing larger or smaller, changing their features, though they always retain certain characteristics like horns or unusual coloring. The dokaebi are tricksters, using their transformation abilities to confuse and fool humans, sometimes maliciously, sometimes simply for entertainment. They can be outwitted, as they are obliged to fulfill promises and can be trapped by clever humans. The dokaebi represents transformation as illusion, as the temporary rather than permanent, as change that looks real but lacks substance, teaching that not all transformation is genuine, that some changes are merely surface alterations that will revert when the magic fades. The succubo of Iberian folklore, distinct from but related to the succubus mentioned earlier, has particular shape-shifting characteristics. The succubo appears as a beautiful woman, but can also take the form of a cat, a snake, or a bird. It visits sleepers, draining their energy, and those who are repeatedly visited grow weak, pale, exhausted. The succubo marks its victims with scratches that appear without explanation, bruises in strange patterns, small wounds that should not be possible. The transformation from woman to animal happens instantly, allowing the succubo to escape when discovered, to slip away as a cat through small spaces, to fly away as a bird, to slither away as a snake. The succubo represents transformation as escape, as evasion of consequences, as the ability to avoid capture by refusing to maintain a single form, by being too fluid to trap, too changeable to pin down. In Maori tradition, certain atua, spiritual beings, could transform at will, taking animal or human form as suited their purposes. The taniwa, already mentioned as water guardians, could appear as reptiles, fish, sharks, or even dragons, shifting form to better navigate their environment or to interact with humans. These transformations were not seen as deceptive, but as natural expressions of the entity's nature, as appropriate responses to circumstances. The flexibility of form reflected spiritual power rather than dishonesty. This represents a fundamentally different understanding of transformation than European traditions, where shape-shifting often implied deception. In Maori cosmology, transformation was capability, a sign of mana, of spiritual power, something to be respected rather than feared. The Joragumo of Japanese folklore begins as a spider that has lived 400 years, gaining the ability to transform into a beautiful woman. The Joragumo lures men to her dwelling, seduces them, then binds them in silk before draining them dry. The Joragumo's human form is nearly perfect, but she cannot hide her shadow, which shows her true spider shape, and she cannot hide her nature while eating, reverting to spider form to consume her prey. The Joragumo can control smaller spiders, sending them out as scouts or servants, and her lair is always filled with webs that seem to accumulate naturally, but actually serve as both trap and alarm system. The Joragumo represents transformation as hunting strategy, as camouflage, as the predator's adaptation to make prey approach willingly rather than requiring pursuit. The vampire of European folklore, particularly in Eastern European traditions, possessed shape-shifting abilities less emphasized in modern portrayals. Historical vampires could transform into bats, wolves, rats, or mist, using these forms to enter homes, to travel quickly, to escape danger. The transformation was not instant, but took moments of concentration, leaving the vampire vulnerable during the change. Some traditions held that vampires could transform others into animals as well, cursing enemies to take beast form, or creating animal servants that retained human intelligence but were trapped in animal bodies. The vampire's transformation represents power over form, freedom from physical limitations, but also represents the loss of humanity, the exchange of human limitations for predatory advantages, the understanding that gaining certain powers requires sacrificing what makes one human. In Inuit tradition, the Mahaha is a demon that tickles its victims to death, but it can also transform its appearance to lure victims close. It might appear as a loved one, as someone needing help, as something familiar and safe, only revealing its true nature once the victim is within reach. The transformation is not perfect. The Mahaha's hands remain clawed, its eyes remain too large, its smile remains too wide. But in Arctic conditions, in blizzards and twilight, these imperfections might not be noticed until too late. The Mahaha represents the transformation as predatory mimicry, as the danger of trusting appearances in extreme environments where conditions make careful observation difficult, where desperation to find shelter or assistance might override caution. Finally, the Yara Mai Ha Hu of Aboriginal Australian tradition is a small red creature with suckers on its hands and feet that drops from trees onto travelers. But before the attack, the Yara Mai Ha Hu might appear as something harmless, a small monkey perhaps, or a red bird, anything that would not alarm its prey. After draining blood through the suckers, the Yara Mai Ha Hu swallows its victim whole, regurgitates them, and through repeated cycles of this process, the victim slowly transforms, becoming shorter, redder, eventually becoming another Yara Mai Ha Hu themselves. This represents transformation as infection, as the predator reproducing by converting prey into more predators, as change that is contagious, as the understanding that becoming a victim of certain things means becoming the thing that victimized you. A disturbing cycle where predation perpetuates itself through transformation. Thresholds exist everywhere in human experience, boundaries between one state and another, and across cultures, guardians watch these liminal spaces. In ancient Egyptian mythology, Ammit dwells in the Hall of Two Truths, waiting beside the scales where hearts are weighed against the feather of Ma'at. Ammit appears as a chimera with the head of a crocodile, the forequarters of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus, combining three of the most dangerous animals known to ancient Egyptians into a single being of pure, devouring purpose. When a heart is weighed and found heavy with sin, found wanting in truth and righteousness, Ammit consumes it, and the soul faces the second death, true annihilation, cessation of existence in any form. There is no malice in Ammit, no cruelty, simply function. She is the boundary between those who may continue and those who must end, the ultimate threshold guardian who ensures that passage into the afterlife is earned rather than assumed. Ammit represents the understanding that some boundaries cannot be crossed through trickery or force, that certain passages require genuine worthiness, that the universe itself enforces moral law through mechanisms beyond human appeal or negotiation. The Gashado Kuro of Japanese folklore forms from the bones of people who died in famine or battle, whose bodies were not properly buried, whose spirits harbor resentment for their abandonment. Individual skeletons merge together, growing into a massive skeletal giant 15 times the height of a normal person, with empty eye sockets that nevertheless see everything, with the teeth that chatter incessantly, making a rattling sound that can be heard from great distances. The Gashadokuro wanders at night, particularly between the hours of 1 and 3 in the morning, grabbing travelers and biting off their heads, drinking their blood. It cannot be killed because it is already dead, cannot be reasoned with because it is made of rage and hunger, cannot be escaped once it has decided to pursue. The only defense is to avoid it entirely, to stay indoors during the danger hours, to listen for the rattling and run if heard. The Gashada Kuro represents collective tragedy transformed into collective vengeance, the understanding that social failures, that allowing people to die in hunger or leaving them unburied, creates spiritual consequences, that neglecting proper respect for the dead invites their return in forms far more terrible than the peaceful ghosts of those honored appropriately. In Serbian and broader Balkan folklore, the Soglav guards the entrances to the underworld, appearing as a humanoid creature with a single leg, a dog's head with iron teeth, and sometimes a horse's body. The Soglav attacks travelers who venture too close to caves, mines, or other openings that lead beneath the Earth's surface, tearing them apart with its iron teeth, consuming their flesh. The creature cannot be reasoned with and shows no mercy, functioning purely as guardian, as the enforcer of the boundary between the world of the living and the realms below. Some traditions hold that the Soglav serves a master, whether a deity or a demon, guarding treasures or secrets hidden underground. Others suggest the Soglav simply is, that it needs no master because it embodies the threshold itself, that it exists as the personification of the boundary, as the physical manifestation of the understanding that some places should not be entered, that certain depths are meant to remain unexplored. The Cerberus of Greek mythology is perhaps the most famous threshold guardian, the three-headed hound that guards the entrance to Hades, ensuring that the dead enter but do not leave. Each head watches a different direction simultaneously, making it nearly impossible to sneak past, and its tail is a serpent, equally vigilant, equally deadly. Cerberus allows all souls to enter the underworld easily, sometimes even guiding them, showing gentleness to the newly dead. But those who try to leave face its full fury, teeth and claws and serpent tail working together to prevent escape. Even the living heroes who ventured to the underworld and returned did so only through extraordinary means, through music that soothed the beast, through strength that overwhelmed it temporarily, through tricks that confused it momentarily. Cerberus represents the fundamental asymmetry of death, the understanding that the threshold can be crossed in only one direction, that what is lost to death cannot be reclaimed, that the boundary between living and dead is absolute regardless of love, of need, of desire to undo what cannot be undone. The Drekavac of Slavic folklore exists at the threshold between life and death in a different way, as the soul of an unbaptized child that cannot move on to the afterlife. The Drekavac appears as a small, elongated creature that moves on all fours or sometimes on two legs, emitting a terrible scream that sounds almost like a crying child but wrong, distorted, inhuman. It haunts crossroads, cemeteries, and other liminal spaces, neither fully in the world nor fully departed from it. The Drekavac's cry is an omen of death, and those who hear it know that someone nearby will die soon. Yet the Drekavac is more pitiable than evil, trapped by circumstance rather than malice, unable to cross the threshold because proper rituals were not performed, because it died before receiving the sacrament that would allow it passage. The Drekavac represents the social importance of ritual, the understanding that communities must perform certain actions to help souls transition properly, that failure to do so traps the deceased in terrible in-between states, that religious and cultural practices serve essential functions in managing the boundary between life and death. From Jewish mysticism comes the Dybbuk, a spirit that possesses living people, using their bodies as vessels because it cannot move on to its proper rest. The Dybbuk is typically the soul of someone who died with unfinished business, with sins unpaid, with oaths unfulfilled, and rather than facing judgment, it clings to the living world by inhabiting a living body. The possessed person exhibits personality changes, speaks in voices not their own, exhibits knowledge they should not possess. Exercising a Dybbuk requires elaborate ritual, the gathering of 10 righteous men, specific prayers and ceremonies, sometimes lasting days, working to convince or compel the spirit to release its hold and accept its fate. The Dybbuk represents attachment to earthly existence, the understanding that letting go of life is necessary for death to be complete, that clinging to what was prevents movement to what comes next, that possession, whether spiritual or metaphorical, represents refusal to accept change, to cross thresholds that must eventually be crossed. The manananggal of Filipino folklore separates its upper body from its lower body at night, the torso growing bat-like wings and flying off to hunt, while the legs remain behind, hidden and vulnerable. The manananggal uses a long tongue to drain fetuses from pregnant women or to drink blood from sleeping victims. But the separation point, the threshold where upper body detaches from lower, is the creature's weakness. If someone finds the lower half and sprinkles it with salt, garlic, or ash, the upper half cannot reattach, and when dawn comes, the manananggal dies. The creature must cross the threshold back to completeness before sunrise or face destruction. The manananggal represents the danger of fragmentation, of divided nature, of existing in multiple places simultaneously without wholeness, of the understanding that what splits apart must reunite or perish, that thresholds crossed must be recrossed, that separation without reunion is death. In Mesopotamian tradition, the goddess Ereshkigal rules the underworld, and to enter her domain, one must pass through 7 gates, removing an article of clothing or jewelry at each gate until arriving naked and powerless before her throne. Various demons and spirits serve as guardians of these gates, and each threshold strips away another layer of protection, another piece of identity, until the supplicant stands utterly vulnerable. This descent through multiple thresholds represents the gradual stripping away of earthly status and power, the understanding that death is equalizing, that whatever we accumulate in life must be surrendered in death, that the threshold between worlds cannot be crossed while clinging to what defined us in the world we leave behind. The 7 gates teach that true transition requires complete surrender, that partial crossings leave us trapped between states, that thresholds demand we fully commit to what lies beyond. The banshee of Irish and Scottish folklore appears near those who are about to die, particularly members of certain old families. The banshee is a herald rather than a cause of death, but she marks the threshold, announces the crossing that is imminent. She appears as a woman, sometimes young and beautiful, sometimes old and haggard, always with long hair that she combs endlessly, and her cry is unmistakable, a wail that carries across distances, that penetrates walls that cannot be mistaken for any natural sound. Those who hear the banshee's cry know that death approaches, that someone is standing at the threshold, about to cross from life to death. The banshee herself seems to exist at the threshold, neither fully alive nor dead, neither fully in the mortal world nor beyond it, serving as the voice of the boundary itself, announcing each crossing, bearing witness to mortality's inevitability. The Draugr of Norse tradition are the dead who refuse to stay dead, who rise from their burial mounds to guard the treasures buried with them. The Draugr are corporeal undead, possessing tremendous strength, capable of changing size, creating darkness, driving people mad with fear. They attack anyone who approaches their burial mounds, dragging them inside to join the dead, or simply tearing them apart for daring to disturb their rest. The Draugr represent the threshold between life and death as a border that can be violated in both directions, that the dead can return just as the living can descend. That burial is not always final, that some hold so tightly to what was theirs in life that death itself cannot make them relinquish it. Fighting a Draugr requires tremendous courage and strength, often requiring that the hero literally wrestle with death, physically overcoming what should not be corporeal, forcing the dead back across the threshold they refuse to accept. In Hawaiian tradition, the night marchers are spirits of ancient warriors who march in procession, particularly on sacred paths connecting temples. The night marchers appear as translucent figures carrying torches, beating drums, chanting in ancient Hawaiian language. They march from one sacred site to another, crossing thresholds between holy places, and any living person who sees them must show respect by lying face down and not looking up. Those who fail to show proper respect, who stand and watch, who block the path, are struck down, their spirits forced to join the march, crossing the threshold from living to dead in that moment. The night marchers represent the continuing power of the sacred after death, the understanding that thresholds between holy places remain active even when the religion that created them has been suppressed, that certain paths are permanent once established, that the dead maintain their own rituals, their own movements between threshold points, and the living must respect these patterns or face consequences. The Onryo of Japanese tradition are spirits of people who died with such intense rage, grief, or anguish that these emotions anchor them to the world, preventing them from crossing to the afterlife. Onryo appear as they did at death, often with long black hair covering the face, wearing white burial clothing, moving in unsettling ways that defy physics. They haunt those responsible for their suffering, causing escalating misfortune, illness, and eventually death. The Onryo cannot be reasoned with because their existence is entirely emotional, entirely pain, entirely the refusal to accept death while the wrongs they suffered remain unavenged. Complex rituals can appease Onryo, giving them what they seek, acknowledging the injustice they suffered, allowing them finally to cross the threshold they have been trapped at. The Onryo represent trauma as threshold, the way intense suffering can trap someone at the moment of death, can prevent the natural crossing, can turn the boundary into a prison where one exists in eternal moment of greatest pain. The Acheri, mentioned briefly before, deserves fuller exploration as a threshold creature. This child ghost descends from mountains at night, existing between the realm of the dead and the living, between the heights and the valleys, between darkness and dawn. The Acheri brings illness particularly to children, as though seeking companionship, seeking to bring others to the threshold where she permanently dwells. But the Acheri can be prevented from crossing fully into the living world by the simple barrier of a red thread, a minimal threshold that nevertheless proves sufficient. This suggests that some barriers between worlds are more symbolic than physical, that belief and ritual create thresholds as real as any material boundary, that protection is often a matter of recognition, of acknowledging that boundaries exist and must be maintained, however simple the maintenance might be. The Preta, or Gaki of Buddhist tradition, exist in a realm adjacent to the human world, trapped there by their own greed and desire during life. The Preta appear as emaciated creatures with enormous bellies and needle-thin necks, eternally hungry but unable to eat, eternally thirsty but unable to drink. They exist at the threshold of the human world, able to see living people, able to desire what the living have, but unable to cross fully into life to obtain it. The Preta represent karmic consequences, the understanding that attachment to earthly desires traps one at thresholds rather than allowing passage through them, that clinging to what was prevents movement to what comes next. Helping Preta cross their threshold requires merit transfer, living people performing good deeds and dedicating the merit to the trapped spirits, providing them what they cannot provide themselves, enabling them to finally cross to the next realm through the compassionate action of those still living. In Filipino tradition, the White Lady appears on certain roads, particularly those where someone died in an accident or was murdered. She stands at the roadside, or appears suddenly in the road itself, causing accidents, particularly targeting those who drive recklessly or who show disrespect by speeding through areas where death occurred. The White Lady marks the threshold where life ended suddenly, violently, marking the spot where someone crossed from living to dead without preparation, without proper ritual. She serves as warning, as memorial, as the stubborn insistence that violent death leaves marks on the world, creates permanent thresholds that must be acknowledged and respected. Drivers who see the White Lady and slow down, who acknowledge her presence with respect, pass safely. Those who ignore her, who insist on treating the space as ordinary, as unmarked, often find themselves crossing the same threshold, joining the dead at the spot marked by the ghostly figure. Finally, the Banshee has counterparts in many cultures, threshold announcers who herald death's approach. The Dullahan carries his own head, appearing where death will soon occur. La Llorona wails near water where children will drown. The Anku drives a cart, collecting souls of the recently dead. All these figures exist at thresholds, marking the boundary, announcing the crossing, serving as the interface between life and death. They are not causes but heralds, not executioners but witnesses, not threats but inevitabilities made visible. Their appearance teaches that death has markers, that the threshold between life and what comes after is not invisible but is announced, is made knowable, is given form so that communities can prepare, so that farewells can be said, so that the crossing, when it comes, is acknowledged rather than denied, accepted rather than ignored, integrated into the community's understanding rather than left as trauma without context. As we drift toward the close of this journey through shadows and ancient fears, we find ourselves contemplating what all these creatures reveal about the human experience. In Aboriginal Australian tradition, the Yowie inhabits remote forests and mountains, a large, hairy creature that walks upright, leaving tracks that seem almost human but too large, too deep, too wrong. The Yowie is shy, avoiding humans when possible, but those who encounter it report an overwhelming sense of being watched, of being assessed by an intelligence that predates human presence on the continent by unfathomable spans of time. The Yowie might be a remnant of megafauna that survived in isolation, or it might be something else entirely. A being that exists at the edges of human perception, neither fully physical nor fully spiritual, but occupying some space between. Aboriginal elders speak of the Yowie with respect as one of the old things, as something that was here before and will remain after, as a reminder that Australia's ancient landscapes hold mysteries that European science cannot fully categorize, that some questions have answers that lie outside Western frameworks of understanding. The Yowie teaches humility, the recognition that we do not know everything, that vast regions of the world remain fundamentally mysterious, that certainty is often illusion masking ignorance. In Basque mythology, the Nguma comes in the night to steal breath from sleepers, pressing on their chests, causing nightmares and suffocation. The Nguma can only be driven away by calling out the name of Saint Peter, or by making the sign of the cross, protections that reflect the Christianization of older pagan beliefs about night demons. The Nguma represents the synthesis that occurs when cultures collide, when old beliefs adapt to new religions, when ancient fears find new names and new protections within imported frameworks. The creature itself predates Christianity in Basque lands, but the methods of protection evolved to incorporate the new faith, creating a hybrid folklore that acknowledges both continuity and change. This synthesis appears across world mythology, old gods becoming new saints, pagan spirits becoming Christian demons, ancient protections being translated into new ritual languages while retaining their essential function. The Nguma teaches that belief systems are flexible, that they adapt and survive by incorporating rather than by resisting, that the human need to name and protect against nocturnal fears persists regardless of the theological framework used to address it. The Abiku of Yoruba tradition are child spirits who are born, die young, and return repeatedly to the same mother, cycling through life and death, causing endless grief. The Abiku are not malevolent but trapped, unable to remain in the physical world, unable to fully depart it, existing in a cycle that benefits no one. Complex rituals exist to bind the Abiku to life, to break the cycle, to convince or compel the spirit to stay in its current incarnation rather than departing again. These rituals might involve scarification, particular names chosen to shame or trick the spirit, offerings to appease it, negotiations with diviners who can speak to the spirit world. The Abiku represents the devastating reality of high infant mortality in pre-modern societies, the way families experienced repeated loss, the need to create frameworks for understanding and potentially preventing what seemed like cruel cosmic repetition. By naming the pattern, by making it a spirit with agency rather than random tragedy, Yoruba culture created something that could be negotiated with, fought against, potentially overcome. The Abiku teaches that folklore serves psychological purposes, that giving name and form to grief makes it manageable, that supernatural explanations can provide comfort where natural explanations offer only helplessness. In Cambodian and Thai folklore, the Krasue appears as a floating head with internal organs trailing beneath, glowing softly in the darkness, drifting through the night seeking food. The Krasu was once a woman, cursed for adultery or for practicing dark magic, transformed into this horrific form as punishment. By day, the Krasu appears normal, the head reattached to a body, living among regular people without detection. But at night, the head separates and hunts, consuming filth, blood, and raw meat, returning before dawn to reattach to the body and resume normal life. The Krasu represents the duality of existence, the way people can maintain respectable facades while harboring darkness, the understanding that what appears normal by day may be monstrous by night. The curse that creates the Krasu is typically related to moral transgression, particularly sexual impropriety, reflecting cultural anxieties about female sexuality and the consequences of defying social norms. Yet the krasu also embodies the inescapability of certain punishments, the way actions create consequences that cannot be undone, that must be lived with, that transform one's entire existence into something divided, something that can never again be whole. The Nukalavi, mentioned earlier in forest contexts, deserves final contemplation as perhaps the most horrifying creature in all of Scottish folklore. When we consider the Nukalavi fully, we see skinless horse and skinless rider fused together, black blood pulsing through transparent veins, muscles and tendons visible, working in terrible synchrony. The creature's breath is toxic, spreading disease to crops, animals, and humans. Its very presence blights the land, turning fertile soil barren, causing plants to wither, bringing pestilence wherever it travels. The Nukalavi cannot cross fresh water, but during its season of activity, from late autumn through early spring, it makes coastal regions and lands near the sea into zones of death and decay. The Nukalavi represents winter's harshness in the Scottish Islands, where the season brings real danger of starvation, of disease, of death from cold and lack. By personifying these dangers as a single terrifying entity, by making winter's threat into something with form and limitations, Scottish Islanders created something that could be understood, avoided, survived. The Nukalavi teaches that the most terrible monsters often represent the most real dangers, that folklore gives shape to genuine threats, that understanding the symbolic meaning of a creature reveals the actual concerns of the culture that created it. And now we arrive at our final creature, one that encompasses themes we have explored throughout this long night. The Strigoi of Romanian tradition is both living and dead, existing in multiple forms, representing transformation, threshold, vengeance, and the consequences of improper death. A living Strigoi is born with certain marks, a caul over the face, extra nipples, a tail, red hair, or being the seventh son of a seventh son. These individuals possess the ability to send their souls out at night while their bodies sleep, to attack others, to drain life force. Upon death, a living Strigoi becomes a dead Strigoi, rising from the grave to physically attack the living, drinking blood, causing disease, visiting former family members to drain their vitality. The dead Strigoi can transform into animals, can become invisible, can control weather and shadows. They are tremendously difficult to destroy, requiring exhumation of the body, driving stakes through the heart, decapitation, burning, and scattering of ashes. The Strigoi represents the full complexity of vampire folklore before it was romanticized, before it was made into tragedy or seduction. The Strigoi is purely predatory, purely dangerous, purely the violation of death's finality, the refusal to accept that life ends, the insistence on continuing through consuming others. Yet the Strigoi also represents community fears about difference, about those born with unusual characteristics, about how societies identify and sometimes persecute those who do not fit norms. The belief in living Strigoi led to real violence against real people accused of being potential threats, showing how folklore can justify cruelty, how supernatural explanations can enable harm. The Strigoi teaches that our myths matter, that what we believe about monsters affects how we treat the living, that folklore has consequences beyond entertainment, that the stories we tell shape the actions we take. These creatures we have explored tonight, from the Alp that presses on sleeping chests to the Strigoi that refuses to remain dead, From water spirits that drown the careless to forest guardians that lead the disrespectful astray, from shapeshifters that blur boundaries to threshold guardians that enforce them. All these beings represent humanity's attempt to understand fear, to name the unknown, to create frameworks for comprehending what threatens us. They are not real in the way that animals are real, with biological substance and evolutionary history. They are real in a different way, in the way that ideas are real, in the way that cultural truths are real, in the way that shared belief creates shared reality. These creatures taught caution to children who might otherwise drown in ponds. They enforced sustainable harvesting practices in forests. They provided explanations for illness, for death, for misfortune, for all the things that happen to humans without apparent reason. They created systems of protection through ritual, through respect, through proper behavior. They allowed communities to discuss dangers without creating panic, to teach important lessons through story rather than through tragedy. As you let these thoughts settle, as you allow the parade of monsters to fade from immediate awareness into the background hum of ancient human wisdom, consider what these creatures reveal about our ancestors and about ourselves. They feared the dark as we do. They feared the unknown as we do. They feared death, disease, loss, suffering, all the things we still fear despite our technology and our science and our certainty that we have progressed beyond superstition. We still tell stories about monsters, though now we call them aliens, or serial killers, or artificial intelligences gone wrong, or diseases that will end civilization. The forms change, but the function remains the same. We need to name what frightens us. We need to give it shape and rules and limitations. We need to believe that understanding provides some measure of protection, some sense of control, some hope that the darkness can be navigated if only we know what lurks within it. The world has not stopped being mysterious. We have simply changed what we call the mysteries. And perhaps in exploring these old creatures, these ancient fears given form, we connect with something fundamental in human experience, something that spans cultures and centuries, something that recognizes that being alive means being vulnerable, that consciousness includes fear, that intelligence creates the ability to anticipate danger and therefore the need to prepare for it. These creatures are our inheritance, passed down through generations who believed, who adapted, who survived long enough to pass the stories to their children, who passed them to their children, until finally they reach us, changed by time but still recognizable, still teaching, still serving their ancient function of naming what threatens and what protects, of making the incomprehensible comprehensible, of transforming cosmic indifference into narrative, into meaning, into something that can be told around fires real or metaphorical, something that connects us to everyone who came before, everyone who also lay in darkness wondering what sounds they heard, what shadows they saw, what waited for them in the spaces between light and understanding. Rest well. The creatures we have explored cannot reach you here, in this moment, in this protected space between waking and sleep. They remain in their stories, in their cultures, in their times and places, teaching their lessons, guarding their thresholds, transforming their forms, haunting their waters and forests and crossroads. They are not your danger. They are your teachers, your inheritance, your connection to the great human project of making sense of a world that often makes no sense, of finding meaning in randomness, of creating light in darkness through the simple act of telling stories, of sharing fears, of naming what cannot otherwise be named. Let them drift away now. Let the fear become fascination, become peace. Let the darkness become not threatening but restful. Let the unknown become not frightening but simply unknown, acceptable in its mystery, beautiful in its refusal to be fully comprehended. And sleep, knowing that countless generations faced the same darkness, told similar stories, felt the same fears and survived, and thrived, and eventually passed into the very shadows they once feared, becoming themselves the ancestors, the memories, the stories told by those who came after.